You know that buzzing sound you hear in the summer? Yeah, that one. Well, it's way more than just an annoyance. Today, we're doing a deep dive into one of the most significant little creatures in all of animal health, the mosquito. And trust me, you're about to see there's a lot more to this insect than meets the eye. So let's just jump right into the big question, the one that really frames this whole explainer. How in the world does an insect this small become such a massive global threat to our animals' health? The answer is, well, it's complicated, it's fascinating, and it's incredibly important. For most of us, right, they're just an itchy nuisance at a backyard barbecue. But in the world of veterinary science, oh, they are so much more than that. We're about to look past that annoying bite and into their role as a seriously efficient transmitter of disease. To really understand the mosquito's true danger, we've got to start with this one crucial scientific term, a vector. Now, what's so important about this definition is how specific it is. A vector isn't just any carrier. It's an arthropod that actively passes parasites from one animal to another, usually through a bite, a process we call inoculation. This is the mosquito's main and most dangerous job. So what makes the mosquito such a perfect little vector? Well, the answer is baked right into its biology. To really get a handle on how effective they are at spreading disease, we need to break down their pretty remarkable life cycle. Let's walk through how this all works, stage by stage. And here it is, the whole process in one picture. The mosquito life cycle is really like a four-act play. Egg, larva, pupa, and finally, adult. This multi-stage journey, split between the water and the air, is the real secret to their resilience and their success. So let's take a closer look at each stage. It all begins right here, with the egg. Female mosquitoes lay their eggs, sometimes hundreds at a time, right on the surface of water or in places that are about to get wet. The key thing here is their total dependence on water. And get this, some species lay eggs that can survive for months in dry conditions, just waiting for that perfect rainy moment to hatch. Incredible. Okay, once those eggs hatch, you get the larva, which you might know as a wriggler. This is their purely aquatic phase. They just hang out at the water's surface, breathing through this cool little snorkel-like tube called a siphon. They're basically just tiny eating machines at this point, molting and growing until they're ready for the big change. Next up is the pupa, or tumbler. Just like the larva, it's still in the water. But here's the difference. It doesn't eat. You can think of this as the insect's own little transformation pod. Inside that casing, a pretty amazing biological makeover is happening, rearranging the wriggler into the flying adult we all know and, well, that we all know. And finally, the adult mosquito breaks free from its pupal case and takes to the air. Now, listen up, because this is the single most important fact of this entire discussion. Only the female mosquito bites. She isn't doing it for food for herself. She needs the protein in a blood meal to produce her eggs and start the whole cycle over. And the male mosquito? He's perfectly happy just sipping on plant nectars. So when you put it all together, the mosquito basically lives a double life. Its entire youth is spent in the water. Vulnerable, yeah, but also hidden. Then its adulthood is spent in the air, where it becomes mobile, reproductive, and, most importantly for us, a dangerous vector for disease. This switch from water to air is what makes them so tricky to control. Okay, so now that we understand how the mosquito operates, let's talk about why it's such a massive threat. The real danger isn't that itchy red bump. It's what the female injects into her host right along with her saliva. This is where the mosquito's job as a vector has some truly devastating consequences for animal health. This says it all, doesn't it? The mosquito is basically a tiny flying hypodermic needle, and the payload it's carrying can be a whole host of dangerous parasites. And here are just a few prime examples from the veterinary world. Mosquitoes are responsible for spreading a nasty group of parasites called filarial nematodes. The most infamous, of course, is Dirofilaria immitis, which you probably know as canine heartworm. But they also transmit parasites to horses, like Ceteria equini, and even to animals like cattle and deer with Ceteria cervin. And this is what that threat actually looks like up close. What you are looking at is a microfilaria, the baby stage of the heartworm parasite, swimming around in the blood. This tiny worm, delivered by a single mosquito, can grow into an adult worm several inches long inside the heart and lungs of a dog, causing severe disease and, yeah, even death. It's a pretty shocking visual that drives home how serious one little mosquito bite can be. So, the problem is huge, no question. But the fight against it is equally sophisticated. You can't just swap them one by one and call it a day. Controlling mosquitoes and the diseases they carry, well, it requires a coordinated, multi-front strategy that hits them at every single stage of their life.
This integrated approach really stands on three main pillars. First, you change the environment to make it less friendly for them. Second, you use chemical agents to, well, kill them directly. And third, you actually use nature itself to fight back. Let's break each of these down.
This is ground zero. It's the foundation of all mosquito control. Remember their life cycle? The first three stages are completely, 100% dependent on water. So the absolute most effective strategy is to just take away the water. Tipping over a bucket in your yard, cleaning out a clogged gutter, draining a puddle, these super simple actions can destroy thousands of potential mosquitoes before they ever get a chance to fly. Now, when changing the habitat just isn't enough, we turn to chemical controls. This is basically a two-pronged attack. You've got larvicides, which are put into water sources to kill the larvae before they can fly, and then you have adelticides, which are things like fogs or sprays that target the mosquitoes already in the air. This category also includes the personal repellents we all use to keep them from biting us and our animals in the first place. Now, this is where it gets really clever. We can actually use the ecosystem to our advantage. Biological control means bringing in the mosquito's natural enemies. A classic example is the mosquito fish, Gambusia, which, as you can probably guess from its name, absolutely loves to eat mosquito larvae. It's a great way of letting nature restore a little balance to keep their populations in check. And this is where modern science gets really creative, the sterile insect technique. It's like a form of genetic birth control for pests. Scientists raise millions of male mosquitoes, they sterilize them using radiation, and then they release them into the wild. These sterile males go on to mate with the wild females, but the eggs they produce will never, ever hatch. Do this enough, and you can cause the local mosquito population to just crash. And that brings us right to our final thought. Mosquitoes are ancient, they are incredibly adaptable insects, they develop resistance to our insecticides, and the diseases they carry are constantly evolving too. So the bottom line is, this fight is never really over. It's a constant, dynamic challenge that's going to require new science, new strategies, and a lot of global cooperation to manage for years to come. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.